started, I'm going to give a slight introduction about both myself as well as this channel and this video series that I'll be starting, given that it's actually the first time I've uploaded on it. A little bit about myself. My name is Noah Rauschenberger. I'm a licensed real estate agent here in Illinois with Rothman Real Estate. I've been born and raised in Chicago and lived here my whole life. A little bit about this series as well as this channel. This video specifically is going to be called Logan Square Neighborhood Deep Dives. Neighborhood Deep Dives is a series that I want to get started that dives into the 77 neighborhoods here in Chicago and goes into the history as well as the history of the housing stock that lives within them. I hope you enjoy this video. Thank you. In 1836, a man named Martin Kimball, a New York native, purchased 160 acres of prairie land in Illinois. He was offered to purchase land in downtown Chicago in Dearborn and State, yet he turned it down due to it being a quote-unquote mud hole in his eyes. Instead, he made his home here, right at the corner of University, Milwaukee, formerly known Kimball Avenue. He founded a farm right at the corner of a Foot Locker and a Van Fat Chinese restaurant. I know someone might have noticed that I actually said formerly Kimball Avenue and not currently Kimball Avenue. Well, that's just because it used to be spelled with an A after Martin Kimball, but when the city of Chicago annexed Logan Square, it was actually changed to an E, which incensed Charles Kimball, Martin's son, so much that he got in the back of his horse with a paintbrush and a bucket and changed the spelling all the way from Diversey to Armitage, back from that A to an E. Well, back to what I was talking about.
In the early 1840s, farming was the main economic driver of the area, although this was an issue for those living in Jefferson Township because they had no good way of transporting their goods to the city center where most buyers were. At the time, all there was a dirt trail, formerly known as the Indian Trail, that led there. But this was going to change in the 1840s when the city began to survey new plots of land to build a road on. And lucky enough for those living in Jefferson Township, in 1849, the Northwest Plank Road opened up, spanning from the city center going northwest 23 miles to what is today Wheeling. This road today is called Milwaukee Avenue, but those at the time when it was first made were very upset to find that there was a 2.5-cent tax every mile on it, which meant that people living in Jefferson Township paid almost $10 in today's money if they wanted to go to and from the city in tolls. Starting in 1850, Logan Square was a part of Jefferson Township, which stretched west of Western Avenue and north of North Avenue. At the time, Jefferson Township was made up of sparsely scattered settlements and farms, although with the Great Chicago Fire of 1871, this would be a major shifting point for the township, and specifically Logan Square. This was because, post-fire, the city of Chicago implemented rules that banned the use of flammable building materials such as wood. Jefferson Township, though, had no such rules, and this led to a large influx of new people moving to the area, specifically a large German and Scandinavian population, to build homes, because all they could afford at the time was to build with wood. This came new factories being built along the western edge of the neighborhood and along the northeast end of Western Avenue, right along the railroads. As the township grew, people began to demand the same comforts that those in Chicago got. This ranged from things such as running water and, ironically enough, fire insurance. In 1889, though, the city of Chicago officially annexed the neighborhood, making it a part of the city and no longer Jefferson Township. This led to major changes such as Milwaukee Avenue being turned from wooden planks into a paved road, and even the CTA being expanded all the way out to Logan Square.
Behind me sits arguably the most recognizable feature of the neighborhood, and that is the Logan Monument. This monument is dedicated to a man named John A. Logan, who's a Civil War veteran here in Illinois and fought to keep us part of the Union. The monument sits right at the center of Logan Boulevard and Kedzie Boulevard and is the center focal piece of the neighborhood. Originally, this monument was actually built to be the tomb of John A. Logan, although his widow at the time decided that his body would be moved to D.C. And now, instead, we are stuck here with the monument dedicated to the man who actually is the reason that we have Memorial Day. So next time you walk through Logan Square, just know you can thank him for your day off work and school.
The Logan Square Boulevard District is made up of 3 separate connected boulevards: Logan, Kedzie, and Humboldt. These boulevards were conceived in 1869 as a part of a connected park system connecting Garfield and Humboldt Park along the city's western edge. These parks were commissioned by the state of Illinois, and William LeBorin Jenney was appointed the architect. You may know Jenney as the architect of the first skyscraper, formerly known Home Insurance Building in downtown Chicago. The boulevards are made up of a central carriageway flanked by park-like medians.
These boulevards are all connected in the middle by Palmer Square. Some homes began to be built along the boulevards in 1880s, but the majority of construction came after the annexation of the neighborhood in 1889. These boulevards started to become lined with beautiful mansions, large apartment complexes, as well as religious monuments. The city officially landmarked the district in 2005.
And just so you might be wondering, what does any of this have to do with real estate? Well, I'm currently sitting outside of a house that sits at 2703 West Logan Boulevard. This home behind me is formerly known as the Rath House. This house was designed for a man named John Rath, an Austrian immigrant born in 1884. Rath moved to Chicago and made a fortune manufacturing wooden barrels. In 1907, he was lucky enough to hire the architect George Maher to design this house. Maher, who at the time was working downtown in the offices of Joseph Silsby, alongside of a fellow colleague named Frank Lloyd Wright, famously coined the architecture style the Prairie School style. This house behind me is a prime example of that style. In 1993, this house was famously landmarked here in Chicago, alongside this historic Logan Boulevard district. This house is a prime example of the homes that were built along the boulevard in the early 1900s by wealthy businessmen.
While not all living in Logan Square could afford homes such as the Rath House, most people lived right off the boulevards on tree-lined side streets such as the 2600 block of Troy and Albany, which had a mix of single-family homes, duplexes, and small apartment buildings. Many of these homes you see today are in one of two varieties in the area. One being the historic Greystone, which were built by people who moved to Logan Square for the affordability, yet envied the design of Gold Coast mansions downtown. Many had the front of their homes designed to look the same as those downtown to give the curb appeal of a mansion. Then secondly, we see the wooden framed houses. As mentioned before, these homes became widely popular in the area post-Chicago fire for their affordability. Between all these homes and duplexes sat larger 3 to 4 unit Greystone apartment buildings, as well as many wood-framed 3 flats. So how does this affect homes in Logan Square today? Well, we need to take a look at what the average home in Chicago looks like to get a really good understanding. If you take a look at the normal home in the city, you see a few standard things, starting with the lot dimension, of which the standard is 125 feet long by 25 feet wide and is usually zoned as RS-3, meaning residential single unit dwelling. This name can be a bit confusing though, because you can actually build up to 2 units on this lot. This allows for 2,250 square feet to be built above grade, and you can build half of that below grade for a basement. This adds up to a maximum of 3,375 square feet for a house. This lot and house size makes up a majority of the residentially zoned land here in the city. Most of the city's zoning efforts began post-Chicago fire, and as we know at the time, Logan Square sat just outside of the city. So this is why we start to see a lot of non-conforming lots and homes here. In Logan Square, it's really not that rare to see a 30 or 35 foot wide lot, and this is just due to how old they are. Where in other neighborhoods, this is only possible through the demolition of other adjacent homes. Extreme examples of this sit along the boulevards, with homes such as the Rath House, which sits on a 160 by 59 foot wide lot.
Logan Square and its housing stocks are prime examples of how history shapes how and where we live today. It's easy to ignore the past when you don't realize how much it influences your daily life. You just never know who or what could have came from just across the street. And I mean that literally. Take this for an example. What looks like a normal apartment building here in Chicago.
Well, in 1906, where this apartment building stands today, used to sit a baseball stadium. That stadium hosted the semi-pro baseball team with the fitting name, the Logan Squares. This team was led by a former White Sox player named Jim Nixie Callahan, who left the team and founded the Squares. The Squares defeated both the White Sox and the Cubs on that very field in 1906, who were both coming off World Series appearances the year before. If you ever find yourself ordering food at the McDonald's at Milwaukee and Sawyer Avenue, just know you're standing right where home plate used to be. This is just one of many examples of how much history sits on every block in Chicago, and you just might not know about it.